This is Recruiting Unfiltered. He's a Division I player.
Committed for suicide, basically.
We're going to cover the full gamut. The roster limits actually become a detriment.
High school athletes need to really open their eyes.
We are here to talk everything recruiting. Recruiting Unfiltered. All right, guys, welcome into Recruiting Unfiltered. I'm Sean, along with Larry Perrin, who is the Executive Director at NSR, and we're fortunate today to be joined by Austin Schaffer. He worked as the Director of Scouting for the University of Cincinnati for 10 years at the D1 level, 7 bowl appearances, a college football playoff berth. Now he's an area scout in Ohio for NSR. He's also got 16 players that he signed at the college level that are currently playing in the NFL. So I'd say we got some college experience, recruiting expertise, and just some great-ass stories here on Recruiting Unfiltered today. Austin, welcome in, man. It's great to have you. Larry, great to see you. I hope everybody had a great Mother's
Sean.
Day and their families and stuff and rolling through. You're welcome. I appreciate it. And let's dive into your expertise. Let's start off, and we'll hit hard and then come backwards and explain. If I'm a kid who's thinks or am getting recruited or not sure if I am, right? With the letters coming in, hit me in my email in my inbox, and it's camp season. It's camp season. It's camp season for the 500 kids that are going to a camp in Pittsburgh, and it's camp season for going to college campuses. So if I come to you and say I need one trait that says, or one piece of advice that I'm not sure I'm getting recruited, but I'm going to this school's camp, where do I start, Austin?
I think it all starts with, before you hop in the car and travel hundreds to even thousands of miles, replying to that coach. I mean, if you're having dialogue and conversation with that coach, and really, I always like to say text communication. If you're, texting with that coach, or you guys are having phone calls on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, that's when I would say you really know you're being recruited. And, those coaches that you're having those conversations with and that level of dialogue, I think those are the camps you definitely want to have first on your list. But if, those schools may be the FCS level or the D2 level, and you want to see if you can take it a level beyond that, a little bit higher, you may be getting some more generic correspondence through email, which, sometimes thousands and thousands of kids are getting those. I always encourage guys to reply to those, whether it's an email or a DM, and just ask, have you seen my film? What do you like about my game? Most of the time you're probably going to get the general company line of, hey, we really like your video. We just got to see you in camp. Most of the time, those guys are just trying to boost their camp numbers and, get more money coming in the door, and they haven't really seen anything about you. And that's going to be a wasted opportunity. You really want, if that coach does reply and say, hey, we've watched your video, if you're an offensive lineman, we really want to see you bend in person, or we want to see your footwork in person. And just make sure, if they haven't seen you in the spring, getting you there on campus for their camp to really, the main thing about these camps is they're getting you in the door to size you up, maybe see some movement in person if they haven't seen that. And just, it's really to confirm some things oftentimes. And, a lot of times guys are walking out of those camps with offers if you do it the right way. But you really want to be having really good communication, or, some level of communication where that coach has seen your film before you guys gas up the car and you head to that college campus, because I know there's going to be a lot of wasted, time and money if you don't do it that way, and a lot of hurt feelings. So I think the biggest thing is just having that level of dialogue and correspondence with whatever college you're thinking about going to their camp. And I think, the process will play out in a favorable manner, hopefully. But that's kind of my biggest piece of advice for choosing the camps.
Hey, Larry, I imagine you've been to a lot, covered a lot, seen a lot. I would imagine, as Austin mentioned, the disappointment that also goes with, you think you're going to be seen and evaluated, and there's 300 kids there, and they're pulling out 7 or 8 of them, and the rest are just there. Now, and maybe they're getting good instruction, but they're not getting maybe what they thought they were getting before they got there.
Well, I use this analogy all the time. You go to a big camp at your favorite Power 4 big school where there's 400 or 500 kids there. And once the camp is over, you're walking out to the parking lot and getting in your truck, and there's still 5 or 6 kids talking to coaches inside. Those were the athletes that the coaches knew about before the camp. Those are the athletes that actually got evaluated while they were at the camp. Those are the athletes that are probably going to be either starting the recruiting process or already in the process of evaluation. And everybody else is a camper. And listen, I don't hate on camps. Camps are a way for the college coaches and staff to make some extra income. I get that. It's a great opportunity to bring money into the program, to the athletic department. But it is an opportunity, if done right, like Austin said, to capitalize on that opportunity for evaluation. Camps on college campuses where they can actually evaluate you in person while you're there. And, and they can pull you out of a group and they can do a drill with you. They can do the old shoulder handshake and, check your traps on you. They can get verified metrics and measurements at these camps, and they can see you move. And they can also watch how you interact with other kids at the camp, and see that part of you as well. So camps are vital if they're used correctly. But don't think just because you're one of 600 kids that you're going to get, found at these camps where you do 1 rep per drill. Okay. The kids that are getting evaluated are the kids that are doing 2 or 3 reps per drill. And they're talking to the coaches after it's over.
That's such a great point, Larry. And Austin, back to you. In your years, and we're full transparency on here, guys that are watching and listening to this. We are, because we want what's best to go there. We're actually trying to save you time, money, but also get you an opportunity to be seen. And Austin, you've seen a ton of it. How often is it, in truth, when a kid that's going there, that's been contacted to go to the camp, but isn't on their radar as their top 10 kids that are there, 3 at each position or 2 at each position? How often can their performance at that camp shine where coaches say, man, he wasn't on our radar? How important is that? Even if you're not the guy going in, you can become a guy coming out from those camps.
Yeah, I would say for that type of situation, we would, when I was at Cincinnati and Purdue, I would always pre-screen everybody that pre-registered. I always like to touch on how important it is to pre-register, because there may be a guy from a really, rural area or an area that doesn't always produce prospects, and he may have some really intriguing size, or he might have basketball film or track film or something really intriguing. He might have no offers, but that may, to Larry's point, he talked about the kids that are being pulled into, select groups and track throughout the camp, and probably going to have video staff following them around the camp. Those guys will be the ones that we had pre-screened. They're going to be on our hot list, and they're going to be in a different jersey color or jersey number. We know who those guys are. So we would try to get, we would manipulate the matchups and the one-on-ones to get best on best. So I would say we knew about the majority of guys that were already going to be there with the pre-registration and pre-screening process. But there have been some guys that have ended up going, big time, that we did not, they came in, walked up and registered. But those are the guys that are looking like they're the first ones off the bus. They look different than everybody else. That's the exception. You don't want that to be a common thing. I would say, I could probably count on one hand the amount of times that happened where a guy walked in that we didn't already know about, that just came in and balled out and ended up being a dude that worked himself onto the board. But most of the guys we already know about, even if they're younger. Like I said, we're watching any little bit of video we can find. So if you are from a school or an area that doesn't always produce guys, pre-registering, and I can't speak for every school's process, only how I've done it and guys that I've worked with throughout college football. But that can often, if you're trying to get the ball rolling, that can sometimes, get you evaluated. And even if you only got a little small sample, but you're 6'5", 240 as a freshman, and you played a little bit of varsity, you might be one of those guys that's getting tracked, closely at camp. And, but I would say that, camps, like I said, trying to get best on best in the one-on-ones, they're they're trying you really, if you're on that select hot list of guys, you're probably going to be the only ones getting reps for the majority of the camp. They might run a side field with some of the younger guys that just to get them some reps, but the dudes are going to be putting on a show on the main field, best on best, and really trying to see how you compete, how you respond to coaching. How can you beat press at the line if you're a receiver, or how do you carry yourself? It's a full on 360-degree job interview, and they're looking at every facet of how you interact with guys, how you respond to a drop pass. That all goes into the evaluation. It's not just running the 40 and evaluating you in position work. It's the full package.
Larry, let me start here with this one, and both of you, and Austin, just jump in afterwards. When should I, as a recruit, start to go to these camps, these college campuses? When should I go? Do I start early as a freshman too soon? When should I start to realize that, okay, or is more years better to get in front of them? What do you think, Larry?
Well, I really do like, for a couple of reasons, to start young. Just now, coaches most of the time break them up in middle school and high school, so they'll have camp specifics for those ages. But if you get to the high school level, you're a freshman in high school, and you're wanting to go to camps to get great instruction to make you a better football player, go early, because you're going to get some of these things. But also understand, if you are that kid that's a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, a little bit faster, you need to go to these camps so these coaches can start that process of tracking you throughout your career. And so like Austin said, you're the first guy off the bus where they go, wow. To backtrack a little bit back to the previous comments about the camps and knowing the kids and everything while they're there. It's just it's important to understand, college coaches have these camps, and I want to reiterate what Austin said. It's less than a handful of kids that just blow the doors off of everybody at the camp, where the coaches find that needle in the haystack. I've worked these camps. I've worked mega camps for years, and we would be running kids through the line. And if it wasn't a kid on our clipboard and they ran a fast 40, and I'm standing there with Power 4 coaches, they'll say, "Hey, he's fast," but they'll move on. What about, where's our guy in line? Where's our guy in line? And that's how dialed in these coaches are on the kids, that they've pre-screened, that they know that they're there as a prospect. So to go back to the age time, it's important to start to see these kids where we start getting them recruited at these camps at a young age. That's the best time also to develop relationships with coaches, because it's outside of the communication rules. Coaches can pull you out of a drill. They can talk to you. They can watch you move. They can do things
It's
with
bonus
you.
time, right, Larry? It's bonus
Right.
time. It's bonus
time. So, I mean, I love the fact that, and if you have that dream school that's a Power 4 school that you want to go to just as a camp, do it your freshman year. You'll see what kind of athletes you're going to be going up against, and that helps you dial in and find your box.
Austin, what about
For sure.
that? The timing of it, when is it earlier better?
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you're a freshman guy that's got a little bit of varsity film, you got some good size, you're gonna run good times. If you want to really move the needle recruiting wise, I'd say go as soon as you got varsity tape, because with today's climate of college football, JV film ain't gonna cut it. You got to be a varsity dude. You got to be a dog. But that's not going to be a ton of guys as freshmen. But I still would encourage, just like Larry said, go and get coached up, because these college coaches, especially if they have some of them will have a designated underclassmen camp. I think that's a great opportunity. It's going to be more, I don't know if casual is the right word, but it's going to be a lot, the bullets aren't going to be flying as fast during that one. And you're going to be getting the same coaching that these college coaches are giving to their current guys that are doing it, at each level. And I think if nothing else, if you go and you really just get the lay of the land, And if you're not really going for a recruiting reason as a freshman or a sophomore, you're just seeing how these camps run, and you're preparing yourself for, when you do have that varsity film and you have the attributes and the things that college coaches are going to want to see. You're running the 40, you're running the shuttle, you're doing broad jump, vertical jump. If you wait till your junior year and you think that's going to be the year where you're going to, go and show coaches what you can do, and it's the first time you run the 40 or the shuttle, you might make a fool of yourself. You need to have practiced these drills before. Half of it, as you know, Sean and Larry, it's the stance and the start. That's where you make your money in these drills. So, if you don't explode out, they're going to be tracking your 10-yard split in the 40. If you don't fire out, they're going to think, oh, you're not explosive, or, you can't change direction in the shuttle. That half of it is just going and learning how these drills work. They might have their strength and conditioning staff teaching you how to fire out of a stance and load properly. That's all things that I would go and just see how these camps are run, so it's not, shock to you when you go and you really need to move the needle and make some money going into the camp process.
He's Austin Schaffer. He worked as director of scouting for the University of Cincinnati, a total of 10 years at the D1 level, 7 bowl appearances, a college football playoff berth, and now an area scout for NSR in Ohio. 16 players that he signed at the college level are currently playing in the NFL. And on the right of your screen, that's Larry Perrin. He's the executive director of NSR, and I'm Sean Salisbury. Brett, the producer, always makes us look and sound probably much better than we are. And we're here on Recruiting Unfiltered, a few more minutes. Okay, both of you. Larry, let me start with you. All right, I'm that kid. I want to go to a camp or 4, and I'm not going to a college camp. I just kind of want to go to a camp, and, they've told me I'm getting recruited. There'll be scouts at a college camp that I'm going. I'll leave the names out. I'm going to a camp in Florida. I'm going to one in Southern California or Scottsdale, Arizona, and 350 kids there. Well, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a parent. What do I do? Am I going to get a lot of reps? Is there going to be scouts talking to me? College coaches, recruiters? What do I do? I want to go to one of these camps. They've told me I'm going to get great instruction. Is this doing me any good? Any way, shape, or form? Both of you guys. Larry, let's start with you.
There are some camps that you will get great instruction. There are some position-specific camps where they are there to instruct you. Are you going to get recruited at those camps? No. Okay. And these big time camps that have all these different names to them, if they don't say so and so camp at the University of so and so's football stadium, then you might want to look at them, because they could potentially be a money grab. And your family, your parents could be out a bunch of money traveling to these things and not getting any benefit out of it. The only thing you get out of it is your metrics and your measurements. There's not,
and you get to be around some kids sometimes. Just kind of a good experience to be around some buddies, right, Larry?
Yeah,
but that's not, you're not getting recruited, right?
Relationships with some other dudes from out of your region, but don't go to these top 150 camps that are supposed to be 150 kids there, but there's 300 kids there. And what they do is they get you in this cycle of sending you. Now you've been top 150, they'll send you to top 50, they'll send you to top 25, and every time it's $300, and it may be all the way across the country. So just be smart with your money. Utilize the camps on college campuses for evaluation, to be seen, and have somebody, an advocate on your behalf, opening these doors to these camps, introducing you to these coaches, so you can be a prospect versus a camper.
Austin?
Yeah, I agree with Larry. The only people that have the authority to offer you a college scholarship are these college coaches at these schools, where you're going to be getting on campus. And I've been to the Manning Passing Academy. It's awesome to get that full experience, rub elbows. I mean, the year I was there, Jamarcus Russell was at LSU still, and you see all these big names, and you're getting coached up by these guys, and it's an incredible experience. It's not cheap, but it is something. You're going to get awesome instruction. You're not going to get recruited. There's not really any college coaches there due to the NCAA rules, but you're still going to get a great experience, great instruction. But if you really are trying to move the needle in your recruitment and get things going in the right direction, you got to go where the college coaches are. I would urge you to really go to the individual school camps. I know there's mega camps out there the bullets are flying 100 miles an hour there, and unless as we talked about, if you've been pre-screened and you got an ongoing relationship with that coach, and for 100% certainty they're going to be at that mega camp, it might be a waste of your time and money to go there too, because there are hundreds and hundreds of kids and hundreds of coaches, limited reps, and if you're going as a unknown trying to make something and get your name out there, that's probably not the place to do it. That the individual school camps are going to be a lot more intimate. You're going to get more instruction, more reps, hopefully more reps, and you're going to get in front of the entire school's coaching staff and recruiting staff. A lot of the times, sometimes these recruiting staffs nowadays can be heading up the entire process. I know, Texas Tech, their GM handles the entire recruiting process and tells the coaching staff who they're recruiting. So if you can get in front of the coaching staff and recruiting staff, I think that's awesome. It's just gonna hopefully open more people's eyes to your game. But what Larry said, got to get on schools' campuses, and that's where the real money is going to be made.
Yeah, and that Manning Passing Academy, I was fortunate to teach at it and coach at it. And it's a great experience for the kids. You get to rub shoulders with the Mannings. It's fun. They laugh. They get Peyton's in there and Eli grinding. I was there when Matt Stafford was still at Georgia. And Matt, when they went to the throwing thing they have on the last day, it's like, this guy's better than any of those Sunday guys. Well, that kind of bore itself out because he was pretty damn good then too. So fun experience and to meet new kids. But if you're looking for college, scouting and coaches and doing it that way, they both serve their purpose in a different way. But to get evaluated and get scouted properly, you hear Austin and Larry have been through it. Okay, guys, before I get your parting shots on camps, we'll give that for last. And if you guys have any question for each other, let me switch to to a new NC2A rule. And Austin, I'll start with you. Larry, you chime in when Austin's done. The 5 for 5 years to play 5 years. Now, when I played, Larry's saying you got 5 years. You got 5 years to play 4. So it's still an advantage. You get 5 to play 5. You had to get that. The next one was because you lost one and you had to redshirt to get a 5th year. Well, now the new 5 for 5, I guess just general thoughts. Is it good for the high school recruiting part of it for that player, or does it make it even tougher now? And secondly, do you like the rule? Austin, start with you.
I think it's definitely going to put a little more strain on the high school athlete. It's giving those guys more time in college. So you got to really, you just have to be that much better, and as we're talking about camps, you got to put on that much better of a performance. Your film has got to be that much better. And, I know Larry touched on it earlier. If you've been a fan of a Power 4 team and you want to go to their camp and see what it's like, see what, if you're going to Ohio State or Alabama, you're going to see what, some of the guys in the rivals top 150 look like. And you can, kind of set your barometer for what a dude at that level looks like. So, you can hopefully self-assess and maybe mom and dad can, help give you, some on an honest assessment and tell you, hey, you don't look like that guy who's going to play on Sundays in the future looks. And, maybe we need to reevaluate our camp schedule or our thought process in recruiting. But you really have to have the size. You got to have all these prerequisite things: size, speed. The game tape has got to be there. You got to look like the dude, when you show up on campus. And I think just puts that much more strain on the high school athlete and makes it that much harder for you, with these guys sticking around for an extra year. But, I think it's a good rule. I think it allows these college guys more time to develop and get reps, and hopefully that helps them become a better player and contributes to a better product on the field at the end of the day. But to answer your first question, I think it's going to put some strain on guys and just is going to force you to be that much better when you get the opportunity to show out in front of a coach.
Hey, Larry, before you answer, you can see my dogs absolutely love the 5 for 5 rule. So there you go.
Yes.
Speaking of dogs. So what do you think, Larry? What do you think about the rule?
The high school kid is going to suffer. It's very COVID-like in the feel of it, where we had the added COVID year. It takes a while for this to cycle out, the ripples of the pond to really start laying down, and it pushes the high school kid further down. You've got this. This starts with the juniors that are in college right now. Okay, so the 2026 kids that are graduating, that they're done, but the juniors that are in college get that extra year. So there's juniors, sophomores, freshmen, 3 classes, and then incoming freshmen make it 4 classes now ahead of our high school athletes. So that's 5 years for those classes, and you basically taken the high school kid out of the equation somewhat, unless you, just like Austin said, unless they shine brighter, unless they shine brighter. Why camps are important? It gives that opportunity to go to a camp on campus where a college coach can see you, and they may want you more than that portal kid. They see a high school kid, they like them, they develop that relationship with them, they believe in them, they meet their parents, everything's great. That portal kid may come with a little baggage. Okay, so I know I've shifted subject matter a little bit, but it all ties into the same. Is when you have 5-for-5, those colleges are just going to reshuffle a lot of college athletes in the portal that have the eligibility stuff, and it pushes the athlete down. Camps are important for the high school athlete more now than ever. So you have the opportunity to be evaluated by a coach where you can start developing that relationship with that coaching staff. And again, just going to the camp's not going to do it for you. You've got to be on a clipboard. You've got to be a guy that they're evaluating, and you've got to show out at that camp and putting down great metrics, great, and verifiable measurements. If your program says you're 6'4" and you weigh 300 pounds, and you get to camp and you're 6'1" and weigh 270, that's not good for you.
And guys, so the message I kind of feel, and Austin, you could chime in too. The message I kind of feel today is also one, when you show up at these camps, be ready to play, be ready to compete and get after it. You're just not there for a shake hands and say hi session. 2 is don't overplay your hand. If you're not Alabama size wise or fit into their box, not that you have big aspirations and you're a junior, it's okay to go to a D2 camp. It's okay to go to a smaller D1 camp, because you got to go. You overplay your hand too much and you get left out in the end. And finally, that choosing the right camp, the right time, and making sure, as you said, get as much information out there to them before you show up at that campus. Correct, guys, as we finish up?
100%. Yeah, definitely want to have some sort of pretext communication with these coaches before the camp. And I think, you touched on D2 camps. I think they're great because, like we just got done talking about with the 5-for-5 rule and how bright your star has to shine to play at the highest level, coming out of high school. You got to be real with yourself. And that's why it's so important to be evaluated by someone, like myself, like you, Sean, like you, Larry. We've seen a lot of football. We've evaluated a ton of guys, and you got to know where you fit in college football's ecosystem as a recruit, because if you don't, and you're just shooting from the hip and you think, oh, I'm going to go to Ohio State, Alabama, and Notre Dame's football camps this summer, and in all reality, you might at best be an FCS guy, probably more a D2 guy. You're going to look back on that summer, you're going to have 3 wasted opportunities. You're not going to have anything to show for it. And you're going to have to manufacture a lot more. Say you're going into your senior year, you're going to have to manufacture a lot of recruiting your senior year. And whereas if you had an honest evaluation by a professional, who's been doing this for a long time, who can tell you where you need to focus your time this summer, in addition to what, they think of the game tape as well, then you got a plan. You can focus on the right schools. You're not going to be wasting money. Mom and dad are, everybody's going to be happy at the end of the day. And you're going to be happy as the recruit because you're going to be talking to some schools. They're going to be calling you. They're going to be texting you. They're going to, you want to go where you're wanted at the end of the day. And, you're going to have that if you focus on the right schools. And there's nothing wrong with NAI, D2, any of these lower level opportunities, because you got to go where you're going to play, you're going to get film, and where they love you. That's what I always tell guys when we're talking about picking schools. And focus on, I would say focus on 5 to 7 camps over June and July. That might even be pushing it. You don't want to overload it because the best ability in the fall is availability. And if you hit 3 camps in 3 days consecutively and you blow out a hammy, that might ruin things for you in the fall. So fuel your body, with good food, hydrate well, don't overload it. And, I think it'll be a good summer for you, hopefully.
Larry, any parting shots before we head, brother?
Just if you want to know if you're being a camper versus being a prospect, Austin hit the nail on the head. You will have some pre-camp communication with the coach, whether it's DMs, texting, emails, whatever, where that coach it may be a personal invite from the coach, or it may be, a follow-up to your registration from the coach, saying how excited they are to see you there. But you will know if you're going to be on the clipboard or not. It'd be by those pre-camp communications from those coaches. So be aware of that. Again, can't emphasize enough. A D2 camp, if you're a D2 athlete, that may be the best decision you make of your life is going there. And you can go to these D1 Power 4 camps and you can visually see the athletes that you are competing against for the same job. And if you don't measure up to those dudes, speed-wise, size-wise, skill set-wise, you may want to start looking at lower divisions to find your best fit. And, and that could be the greatest decision of your life.
Parents, you have dreams and goals. Kids have dreams and goals. Please, I almost beg you, please quit preaching D1-itis or D1 or bust. It's nice to have goals, but you better have another plan, because if you knew, and you can talk to any of us, contact us anytime you need. If you knew the percentage of kids who get to that point, it's rare. Doesn't mean it's not achievable, but D1-itis will get you left behind. And if you get there, great. But please know that there's great opportunities with academics and athletics. And once you're there, if you're worried about the NFL, there's a lot of Division II players and lower Division I players that are playing on Sundays, okay? But let's worry about Sundays after you take care of Fridays and take care of Saturdays. And part of that is recruiting and being evaluated properly. Austin, phenomenal stuff, man. Appreciate great insight. Who's seen it at the highest level. To Larry, seen it at the highest level. Both these guys, experts in recruiting, experts in the rules of recruiting, experts in evaluation and where to take you and scout you. I appreciate it. To Brett, our producer, awesome. To Larry and Austin, we'll be back next week and with a new topic. And we look forward to it. I'm Sean. We'll see you next time on Recruiting Unfiltered. Thanks for joining.